All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State, powered by the New Jersey Lottery. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We are here in Mountain Lakes with the CEO of the Sound Start Foundation, Bromme Cole. Bromme, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for being here. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. So sitting out here in the courtyard, a little bit of a change up, but this show really just like thrives on chaos. That's kind of like what we do.
Right.
But we've recorded in way worse locations than this. So this is pretty cool. You know,
it was a great day.
Cool spot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it was raining, we would have a little bit of an issue, but it's all good. So we're here. And we're talking about the Sound Start Foundation, which you're the CEO of. And so can we kind of get we'll do like a quick 30,000-foot view what the Sound Start Foundation is and kind of who it serves and all that kind of stuff, and we'll get a little bit more into the story as we go.
Well, great. That's a great introduction. Thank you very much. I think Sound Start has been around for about 30 years. I think we're on our 27th year right now. And we are an educational program for kids who are born hard of hearing. And we essentially provide early intervention services. Today we have about 85 kids in our program, and we're going stronger than ever.
Yeah, which is awesome. And let's talk a little bit about you, too. So how long have you been the CEO for? Kind of how'd you get here?
Right.
Almost?
Well, you know, I came here about a little less than a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And most of my career has been focused on healthcare and to some extent education. Healthcare with respect to geriatric care. I spent right after college, I got involved in healthcare, and it led me to spend the last 10 years of my life actually in China.
Okay. What were you doing in China?
I was introducing modern geriatric care techniques to the Chinese population. Understand, you know, there are 250 million Chinese people over the age of 65.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call from a good friend of mine when I went to college, and he said, you know, I didn't know that you were in geriatric care. We've got a colossal problem here. And with my business background, I thought, you know, having been in geriatric care in various forums here in the United States, I thought it might be an interesting follow-on to what I was doing. So I packed my bags and I headed off.
Yeah, that must have been a crazy experience, I would imagine. You know, kind of like almost like a different world, I guess, for you, right?
Well, entirely different. You know, the Chinese culture is very focused on this idea of filial piety.
Okay.
You know, where the kids are always taking care of their elders, you know, as they get older. And today, with the emergence of China economically, you know, all the kids are working for Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley.
Yeah.
And they got no time. They're working 80 hours a week, and they got no time to do that. And so I saw, you know, from 2009 to 2019, you know, the construction of geriatric care facilities, you know, community care facilities like you wouldn't believe all around China. The difficult thing was that they're great at building buildings, but implementing the care techniques was something that, you know, takes a little bit longer. And
sure,
that was really my role, was to help them learn how to implement those care techniques, and more importantly, how to manage the geriatric care business.
Right. Gotcha. All right. So you do your 10 years in China. Does that lead up to you getting your now role here at the Sound Start Foundation, or was there kind of something in between there?
Well, somewhat. I was on the last plane out of Shanghai, you know, during COVID, right?
Yeah.
I got a call from the embassy, and they said, listen, this is your last chance. You know, maybe 4 years before you can get out of here. And so you should get out of here. And so hopped on a plane. At the time, I still had a consulting contract with Asian Development Bank, working on their implementation of geriatric care in various different parts of China, Mongolia, Vietnam. And I continued to do that back here in New York and New Jersey, but you know, the difficult thing is being able to implement those techniques when you're 8,000 miles away.
Sure.
And so I got a phone call and the person said, gee whiz, you know, there's this organization in New Jersey that, you know, is without a captain, and you might be interested in what they do. And so we had a conversation, and I tell you, you know, almost immediately my heart went out to them.
Yeah.
And it was just a tremendous organization. And I felt that, you know, my wheelhouse is business. And I thought that I could bring my business expertise to help write the organization and set it forward, write a strategic plan, raise money, and set them off again. And that's, you know, I can say today, you know, mission accomplished.
Yeah. And so you said, you know, like when you first kind of got, not win, but learned a little bit more about what the foundation was doing, What were there certain aspects of it that kind of like drew you in? Because obviously, you know, with your background, all that kind of stuff, you can go do a myriad of things. But like, what was it specifically about the SoundStart Foundation that kind of drew you here?
Right. Well, you know, it's all about the theme of being an advocate for vulnerable people.
Right.
Right. That's been a consistent thread throughout my entire career. And the more I learned about early intervention, the things that the program did, you know, it really drew me in. And most importantly, you know, the single fact that, you know, if we can get to a kid at 18 months and our teachers can, you know, can overlay their magic on a child who's born hard of hearing, then I can give you 85, 90% certainty that kid will graduate into a general ed, matriculate into a regular school.
Yeah.
You know, when they're done with us at 3.5 years old.
Yeah, which is really incredible considering, you know, almost kind of like me growing up, that necessarily wasn't always the case,
right.
You know, and now it is, you know, because of groups like this.
Right.
Right. And so, you know, as we're kind of talking about this and, you know, I know we talked a little bit off mic about how kind of like your focus with the foundation is on the business side and kind of making sure that like, you know, these great things that they're doing have the money to actually do them, you know, and kind of how do you balance that between, you know, like knowing what the needs are and then kind of from like the business standpoint, almost making sure that we're reaching those needs, I guess.
Right. Well, when it comes down to, you know, finding the resources that we need, it's a relatively simple process of my sitting down with the teachers and the head of their school. And I ask the simple question, what do you need, you know, over the next 12 months? You know, is it more computers, you know, larger classrooms? You tell me what you need,
yeah,
and I'll make it happen.
Yep.
And it's as simple as that. They give me an outline, I write the budget, and then I go out and I go hunting for money.
Yeah, and where are you hunting? Like, how is SoundStart funded?
This is a great cause. You know, all I've got to do is go visit one organization, and they fall in love the same way I did with exactly what the gals and the teachers do over at the program.
Yeah.
And so some of our biggest sponsors are PNC Bank,
okay,
Peapack-Gladstone Bank. We have a lot of major donors who stand behind us, and they are affiliated with the program in some way or another, going back 30 years. You know, and so, you know, it hasn't really been a problem. The only issue today is really, you know, the drama that's kind of unfolding on the national stage. That's been a little bit of a road bump, but by and large, you know, we've got a gala coming up, and we're looking strong for that.
Yeah, which is great. And you know, like I mean, it's a different cause for sure, but like, you know, raising money is not always easy. But when you do have a good, you know, message and work that you're doing, I think that makes it kind of like, you know, it makes it almost like a no-brainer for people to kind of make sure that you're supporting that. You've been CEO for about a year. I'm curious if there's been like any particular moments that it kind of, I'm going to say, validates that you made the right decision to come on as CEO here, where you saw something, you were like, you knew that they were doing good work, but then you almost were able to kind of see something that you almost were unaware of at the beginning that kind of like really drove it home. Like, okay, this is right. This is right.
Two things. I visited the school about 3 months into my tenure here. And when you see the kids sitting around in the classroom, singing along with the teacher or learning how to sign, you know, it touches you in a way that little else does.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I had a chance to meet some of the alumni, you know, guys and gals who had graduated 15, 20 years ago. And these people, because of the early intervention that they got at the program, are leaders in their communities.
Yeah.
You know, they're financial advisors, they're in the food and beverage industry, and they are shoulder to shoulder with their peers, you know. And so when you see that, both the during and the after, you can't help but stand in awe of exactly what the program and the teachers do.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit too, because I know you have the gala coming up on May 9th. And I know that there's, you have a speaker coming through, and there's just, there's a lot of, I'm going to say, big name people that kind of like are supportive of what you guys do. So let's talk a little bit about that and kind of, we talk about financial supporters, but almost kind of, in the same breath, people that are just kind of championing the cause of what the SoundStart Foundation does.
Yeah. We have two individuals, really pillars of the community that have stepped forward. We have our honoree, who is Dr. Jed Horowitz, who spent his entire career as a pioneer in surgery. He's from, I believe he's from Summit Health, and he's one of the most famous surgeons across the country. He performed the surgery on a lot of our kids, and so we are enormously grateful for his support, and we're going to honor him on May 9th. And we have another outstanding individual that we came by quite by accident, and we were looking around for sort of a guest speaker, a celebrity, and a lot of times you've got to pay a lot of money for somebody like that, right? I mean, and given the budget that we're on, we were hoping to find somebody, who would do it for a stipend. And one evening, I happened to be watching TV, and I caught a commercial. It was a Kia car commercial. They were advertising their EV6 car, and the tagline was, the power of silence. And as I was watching it, it dawned on me that the guy there, he's this NASCAR superstar, and he was born deaf. And, the light bulb went off my head, and I knew we had to contact him and somehow get him to our gala. And it was as easy as that. The woman who runs our events said, "I'll call him up." And I was a little concerned initially. I was a little concerned initially that we were going to get an agent and we were just going to get embroiled in this whole thing. Yeah. But he picked up the phone himself.
That's incredible.
The question was, this is who we are. Would you be interested in being our guest speaker? And you know what he said? Not a problem. Yeah. And this guy lives in Calgary, Canada.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, we contacted him in January. He said, "I love this program. I'm flying down to New York, New Jersey, and I want to come visit you guys."
Yeah.
On his own.
Sure.
And so he showed up, went to school with the rest of the kids, and he was instrumental in helping us gain the financial support of Kia USA.
Yeah.
And he's coming back on May the 6th, and we're going to bring him around to all of our sponsors. He's an extraordinary supporter of ours.
Yeah. That's incredible. And so, I mean, he must have been just totally blown away with the stuff that you guys are doing, right?
Well, it's curious, when you speak to him about his experience, and he had his cochlear implants set when he was about 8 years old.
Okay.
Which, today that's a little bit late. And he said, "Golly, and these were his words, right? He said, if I had the benefit of the stuff that you guys do, I'd be president of Canada or something like that, right?"
Yeah.
But he's an enormously successful individual, and to listen to his story is incredibly motivational, and that's why we want him in front of our kids as much as possible.
Sure.
He's a great role model.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's sometimes, I think when people are going through whatever they're going through, I think a lot of times people feel like they're kind of on an island by themselves almost. Yeah. And then to kind of see someone that, is in the position that he's in, essentially doing something. And we were talking also off mic about how like driving the car and communicating with a pit crew and knowing all the stuff that's going on around you. I mean, to me, it's like, it's hard to almost kind of wrap your head around, but I think it's a role model type of deal. And I think it's incredible.
Well, the interesting thing about the way he got into racing, he was declined by NASCAR a couple of times.
Yeah.
Because they were concerned about this, and he had to prove that, his FM system, would give him, nonstop communication with his pit crew. And when they saw how he raced and how professional he was, they simply said, "Okay, have at it." But I want to touch on another point, and that is, he's not just a great role model for the kids. When the parents interact with him, being a parent to a child who's born hard of hearing, there's a lot of anxiety associated with that,
right?
And the decision to go ahead and have a child implanted, it's your kid, and so when they see him, when they see Chris Martin, and how he's developed, it's they take a great deal of satisfaction, and it calms them down a great deal.
Yeah.
The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about the crew over at Make Cool Shit. These are the magicians who recently gave our podcast a jaw-dropping makeover. You know how we roll here at Greetings from the Garden State podcast, right? We're all about that Garden State attitude. Well, Make Cool Shit shares that same vibe, and they've got something absolutely epic to offer. It's called the Unlimited Cool Shit Design Subscription. It's a game changer, my friends. Imagine this: unlimited creativity, one flat monthly fee, and none of that boring stuff. It's like having your very own army of design superheroes on speed dial. Whether you're a fresh-faced startup or a seasoned business looking to shake things up, the team at Make Cool Shit has got your back. It's all about making your brand sizzle, no matter where you are in your journey. So if you're ready to turn your ideas into mind-blowing realities, then it's time to connect with Make Cool Shit. To check them out on Instagram at WeMakeCoolShit, or visit their website, WeMakeCoolShit.co. Remember, that's co, not com. Because I think that's the other thing too, like when you talk about parents, and I know that the foundation not only educates the kids, but also provides those services for families, which is also important, like you're talking about, because,
right.
If you never dealt with that before, never dealt with something like this before, you don't know.
Right.
And it's about like the education and awareness and all that kind of stuff that kind of goes into it, I would imagine.
Absolutely. One of the things that's really amazing, not only do we have a classroom, multiple classrooms, but we have this tele-intervention service where our teachers can meet with families either via Zoom or they go to their homes. And the earlier that we can do that, if I could reach a kid at, just after they were born, not so much to begin, not so much to have our teachers begin their LSL and inserting the lean technologies, but more so to help the parents with stimulation exercises and to teach the parents how to work with a kid, from the very outset. You can't start early enough.
Sure. No, I would imagine not. And it just kind of, gets everyone almost ready as those steps start to come. Like you start implementing all those things, the educational type things with the kids.
Yeah.
It's just, then it becomes almost seamless, so to speak. So I'm curious, and we should have talked about this before. How did the Sound Start Foundation start?
Right.
Yeah.
It's all due to really the founder, Laura McCurdy. And she was a long-time Mountain Lakes resident, had been in education, and this was one of her passions in life.
Yeah.
And it started off with just a couple kids in school, and it became, 85 kids every semester, and it just, there was a demand.
Right.
And she saw the demand, and she met that.
Yeah. And so we're talking about kids in school, the 85 kids. Are they all right here in Mountain Lakes? Is that where the schools are?
Oh, no. We have a big outreach. We're serving right now 12 counties in northern New Jersey.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
And one of the things that we want to do going forward in the strategic plan that we've written is, there's a real void down south.
Sure.
You look at Vineland, Glassboro, there really isn't an early intervention opportunity for kids down there. Now, granted, the population is much lower.
Sure.
But, we would really love to be able to set up a satellite classroom in Trenton or even Glassboro, for that matter.
Yeah.
That takes time.
Sure.
It takes money. And there's a lot of state bureaucracy that you've got to go through in order to be able to set that up. But one of the things that we've toyed around with, and we're working on today, is a mobile audiological unit.
Okay.
Where, we're looking at acquiring a large van on sort of the UPS size.
Sure. Yeah.
And outfitting that with testing equipment and sending that off to visit schools around southern New Jersey. And even after school it's out, we want to send it to camps. all around New Jersey, and that will really give us the outreach to be able to expand our services.
Yeah, and it's really because that's a great segue. Because my next question was going to be about, like we talked about the history, we kind of talked about what's going on now, but then looking into the future, and kind of growing the foundation beyond what it is right now, and kind of getting it to like new levels and new heights, and being able to just reach more people. Whether it's geographically and all that kind of stuff. I think that's really important as well.
No question, and it's really about underserved geographies at this point.
Yeah,
we know that there are needs in the Union County, Essex County area, where our services are desperately needed, and so we would love to be able to set something up in Newark.
Yeah.
The challenge there is being able to find the right space to be able to attract the families and the kids. Same goes for Burlington, Trenton area, Camden. We would love to be able to set up a school there as well. Because again, big population centers, and at about the 2 to 3 kid per 1,000 ratio.
Right.
There are kids there who don't have the benefit of early intervention, and that's a crying shame. And so we want to be able, that's one of the things we want to be able to do. I think first steps is the mobile audiological unit, and then once we have established, a cohort of individuals that really could benefit, then we'll do it.
Yeah. This is just because I'm curious now about it. When you are looking at these different geographical areas, are there ways you can kind of know, like, okay, we would be best served if we were in, I know you mentioned Newark, which is the biggest city in the state, but then like other areas where, that like, okay, if we go here, this is going to be able to serve X amount of people, or if we go to this, is that how it works?
Well, what happens is that when you have a kid in New Jersey, they're automatically given, excuse me, we can cut that out.
Yeah.
When you have a kid in New Jersey, they're automatically given a hearing test.
Okay.
And then based on the results of that test, they're referred to a number that they can call. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Sure.
The follow-up is really on the family. And so there is no precise science, so I can't tell you there are 30 kids in Newark that need us,
yeah, right,
or 15 in Trenton that need us, but it only stands to reason.
Yeah.
If there's no early intervention opportunity like SoundStart in Newark, New Jersey, then how are they getting it?
Right, they can't. Yeah.
And so, again, I always go back to the fundamental premise that, if we can reach a kid at 18 months who's born hard of hearing, I can guarantee you that kid will graduate from our program and matriculate into a Gen Ed program shoulder to shoulder with their peers.
Yeah.
And the consequences of that is that kid will go on to lead, will reach their full potential in life.
Yeah.
Right? And not be, on the dole, or a ward of the state, it's crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if people are listening to this episode and they're like, this doesn't affect me directly, but I'm interested in getting involved somehow. Like, what are ways that people can get involved with the SoundStart Foundation?
Lots of ways you can get involved with the SoundStart Foundation, by being a sponsor, by being a volunteer. We always need volunteers at our events. Come visit our school on Lake Drive in Mountain Lakes. Go to our website, soundstartfdn.org, learn about what we do, and give us a call. We're open arms.
Yeah.
Anybody and everybody, the more the merrier.
Yeah. And if this is something that a family is directly affected by and they're not in the program, is there I would imagine you were talking about before, it's beneficial to get involved or get started with it as early as possible.
Right.
But if it's now a little bit down the road, maybe the child's like 8 or 10 or older or whatever, how does that kind of play into the stuff that you guys are doing? Is there like kind of a, I don't want to say it's too late, but like,
right.
Earlier the better, but how does that work for families?
Our kids leave us at about 3 years old.
Okay.
And they go on, 85% of them go on to their local schools.
Okay.
But there are lots of other programs around the state that offer middle school experiences for kids who are born hard of hearing. And so give us a call.
Yeah.
And when we'll tell you where to go. I mean, if you're an 8-year-old and you need this type of work, then we know exactly where to send you.
Gotcha. I should have asked that question. You know, like the ages that we're focused on.
No worries.
Yeah. Yeah, all good. Okay, and then, you know, I think that also kind of comes into play, too, because I think that no matter what, the great thing about the foundation is that it's just a resource for families and kids that are, you know, either deaf, hard of hearing, all that kind of stuff. And I think that that's the main thing. So obviously, like, you're providing a service, you know, like the early education stuff, but then also kind of being able to, you know, point people in the direction. Like, these are also places you can go as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody who has any questions about, you know, their child who is hard of hearing, even if they're not a student, you know, we'd be happy to chat with them, point them in the right direction, listen to their experience, and be able to offer advice as to what they should do next.
Yeah. So before we wrap, I want to make sure that we kind of hit all the people that we want to shout out as far as supporting the SoundStart Foundation. I know we missed one early on, but we want to make sure we mention it. So who is that and why?
Well, you know, because we have Chris Martin, you know, if I told you, you know, that there was a real connection between car racing and being hard of hearing, you would say, what the heck, you know, how's that? Well, because Chris Martin he's really opened up a whole universe for us. And because he's part of us right now, and he's really sort of our ambassador, we've been able to reach out to organizations like Monticello Motor Club. Okay. And they have an enormous following. And they operate a racetrack in Monticello, New York. It's based here in Wayne, New Jersey, I believe. And they're one of our big sponsors. And the fun thing about their sponsorship is that we're going to be able to sell opportunities to go around their racetrack in their supercars.
Oh, wow.
With Chris Martin. You can go around the track 2, 3, 4 times at speed. Which you know probably means, you know, 200, 300 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But we're going to be auctioning off those experiences, and you know, Chris is going to he'll show up in his racing leathers, and it'll be very exciting.
Yeah.
And you know, I can't wait for that. Some of our other sponsors, you know, like Phonak, who produces devices for people who are hard of hearing. They're one of our big sponsors. I mentioned the banks, of course. There are a number of families who've joined us, and so you know, we're blessed with a cause, you know, that has attracted a very large following.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this, and I love that we were able to kind of get this set up and recorded. It was great to meet you. So I know you mentioned the website earlier on, but places that people can go to learn more, get more information, all that kind of stuff, where would you want them to go?
You know, the best place to go is really our website, and that's soundstartfdn.org. We have a good presence on Facebook. We've got a good presence on Instagram. And over the last couple of months, with our gala coming up, you can imagine we've flooded social media with all sorts of information.
Yeah.
Go to the website, buy a ticket, come meet Chris Martin. He's an extraordinary young man. You know?
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll make sure that we put the website and everything in the show notes. So people just go click it.
Awesome.
Check it out. We'll also put greetingsfromthegardenState.com, which is the website, obviously, for the show, which you can get to all of our other episodes. Brahmi, thank you so much
you very much.
for doing this with us today. Thank you. So again, this has been the Greetings from the Garden State podcast, powered by the New Jersey Lottery. We're here in Mountain Lakes today with Bromme Cole, the CEO of the SoundStart Foundation. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.